Okay. Now it's like, let us like, walk through like in the concepts. And the plan is something like this. And if you're all are good with the Python programming, like, we can skip that. But like, this is a generalized plan. So, okay, let us walk through. So day one, like, our initial first week, like, in coming to the Python guys, we're not going to cover like, even I'm the hardcore Python developer from the day one of my career. So, but like, if you're not into programming, but too much of Python is not needed at all. So, but like in the real time, generally we, whatever we implement that can be in the machine learning or that can be in like, deep learning or GenAI, like we generally go for the object oriented. So that is what we do. Like, right? Like, knowing this is good, but it's not essential. So we'll start from the scratch, looking at all the required concepts, like, right? Like, even Python itself, it takes like, generally, it will take like, 1 month of time covering all the concepts. If there is, so only Python training, but like, here it is not the full-fledged Python training, so we don't need everything. So, but good to know. So even nowadays, this is expected in interviews too, like, right? Like, first of all, first round will be the coding round and followed by other rounds. So once like, we're comfortable with this and this, like, we can discuss like, how much is required, or if you all are comfortable, we can skip this also. So, okay. So once like, we talk about this, like the next is like, the general case, the structure, if you look at the plan, so, or like the progression of like, the journey, so it will be something like this. Like, first of all, knowing about the Python fundamentals or intermediate level is really good. So in terms of career. So, and then like, data analytics. So, right, like, and then is like, statistics. I'll talk about this also, like, the reason of adding this. So statistics, and then like, we generally like, we talk with machine learning. So machine learning modeling, like, to creating the model, like, right, deploying the model. So in prod and non-prod, like, I mean, it's a cloud and non-cloud, like, right, like it's all about the pickle file, basically, wherever you create. So, and then like, deep learning, so is one area. So, right, like, once we are done with this, and then comes GenAI. So, right, like, GenAI, like, and here we talk about basically like, large language models. So in the large language models, like, we have like, two types, like, one is open source models. So, right, like, open source models. So which are available like in the Hugging Face, and there are other sites also, right? Like where the models are available. So in the other ones are like, commercial models, like, commercial models. So everyone will be, of us are using ChatGPT. Like ChatGPT is like, free of cost, like, right? If it's just like, the UI part. So, right, like the backend works is like, GBT, and to access the GBT via APIs, obviously we need to purchase a license. And apart from this, like, we have a number of other large language models which are like, few are partially free of cost and few are entirely free of cost. So, like, to access via APIs. So, okay, so this is one, like, in this also we talk about Hugging Face models. So, like, what are Hugging Face models? Like, what is the need of that? So, right, like, in like, comes like, then comes like, RAG is one, like, memory management, like, how like, this large language models, like, work with the memory related data. So, right, like, once we're done with this, like, Jenny starts with this, like, and also here, like, with the prompt engineering. So prompt engineering is every one of us, like, are up to some extent are good with the prompt. That's what, like, we question the large language models in the ChatGPT or like, any other tools. So, right, like, this is a flow, like, generally the learning flow. And once we're done with this RAG, and then comes like, right, agentic agents. So, and then comes like, agents, like it's just building one agent, right? And then comes agentic AI. So it is like, all about designing the workflows. And again, in the agentic AI, like, we have like, two different, like, even if we take agents, so we can categorize this into two parts, and agentic AI also, like, we can like, classify this into like, two parts. So like, one is coding, like, with coding. So, right, and right, the other part is without coding. So using the tools already, having the tools like just like drag and drop. So, and agentic AI, even the same thing, like, in order to design like an agentic AI workflows, like, with coding. So, and not even writing single line of code, like we can also do that, like, right, like without coding. So the number of like, So tools available, right? The libraries available, like, where we can, like, simply, like, so drag and drop, like, to create the flows. So in this, like, what are required, what are not required. So like coming to Python guys, like, right, like, you may be coming from like any program languages. So, but like, Python itself, like basically if you focus pure on the Python itself, it takes 30 to 45 days. Simplest language, easiest language, everyone might be aware of this, like might be from the graduation days or like even like in college, like while pursuing your MS and all, right? So, but like, too much of Python is not it. I mean to say, like, hardcore programming is not it, but like, we have few concepts, like, that are good to know. So in the lab sessions, basically, like, we go for the procedural style, but in the real time, so like, I'm working as senior data scientist. So most of times, like, we go for the procedural style, object-oriented style only. Okay. So in the data analytics, like, we talk about pandas, like, pandas like libraries, we have like almost like 7 to 8 libraries. If the data is spread across multiple clusters, even like, we use PySpark. So, but it is built on the top of pandas only. So all the visualizations, like, right, data engineering stuff, like, comes here. So, right. So, and then statistics. So before race, like, say, like, 4 to 5 years back. So, like, Jenny was not there. Like, Jenny, it, like, it is in the booming, like, for the past 2 years only, hardly. So from 2023 also, like, people are not aware of, like, Jenny, like, what it exactly is in the roadmap of this. So, but like, from the end of January, like in 2023, like, people started, like, talking about this ChatGPT, but still there was no clarity. So before 5 years, like, we used to teach only this. Even before, like, up to 2023, we used to teach only this. So in this process, like, statistics is the core, it is essential. Like, the z-scores, like, hypothesis testing. So, right, like, but nowadays, guys, like, everything is automated with the help of libraries, like statistics is not needed. So good to know the concepts, like, so what is covariance, correlations, right? Like, like, what is hypothesis testing, z-score, p-test. Like, it is good to know, but it's not required now. And coming to ML guys, like, right, like the next will be a machine learning. So if you observe this, like, deep learning is built on the machine learning, Gen AI is built on the deep learning. So, right, like, if you're not into, like, the modeling part, like, even if you're from, like, completely from, like, are aware of end-to-end machine learning too. So I'm talking about the ones who are not into, like, this stack at all. And machine learning is like, right, like, again, like, if you talk about all the algorithms, it is like, it's like hardly like a 2, 3 months of course. So, and what is required here, like, we have to know, like, how to split the data, how to try and test split, like, so what is the algorithm? So what is model, like, we should be comfortable with all these things, algorithms, like, the number of algorithms available and how to create the models, right? So how do we check the accuracy? Like, it depends on the model, right? Like, we have, again, different types of algorithms, supervised algorithms, unsupervised algorithms, and in the supervised, like, classification type, regression type. So, like, it as a whole, like, at the high level, like, it is not required to be proficient in this area. But like, without knowing all these things, if you know only Jenny, like, it will not help you. So, right, if you're like, from the background, if you need to have the, like, like roots, like, with like, what is ML and deep learning. So what are the different kind of activities, like use cases we have in the machine learning, and what are the different types of use cases we have deep learning. So no need to excel in this area, but like, it is really required to know. So even look at the requirements, guys, job requirements, they'll clearly mention that, like, right, like, the candidate should be like, good at machine learning and deep learning. So, right, like, even deep learning is like, hardly two major use cases. So one is that text related, or the other one is like, image processing. So RNNs and CNNs, like, we have like, two different, like, use cases. So, right, like, in the machine learning, deep learning is like, both of this, like, the target is to make the prediction. So the ultimate goal is to make the prediction, like just to make the prediction. So the prediction can be like the numerical value, that can be categorical value, yes or no, true or false, or like, the salary prediction, whatever it is. So even like, the same thing, like, we are going to train our data first, and then like, we are going to get the predictions. So you might be, everyone, like, might be aware of this, right? The first goal is Like we are going to feed, like, it's just like, going to school, like in the schooling days. So for the first 9 months, like that faculty is going to train us, teach us. So good and bad, right or wrong, yes or true or false, like, right, like, how to, like, behave, everything, right? So by the end of the academic year, like, we are going to give the exam. So to check our accuracy, the same thing is happening in both these two, like, areas. So again, it's no need to, like, be excel in this, but like you have to know, like, what is the model, algorithm, like, which one to use. So how to get the predictions, like, right, like what is ROC curve, right? Like, we have to know, we should be really good with all these things. What is confusion matrix? So, right. And once you're good with this, so Jenny, so, and in the deep learning, like, we have something called as transformer architecture. So Jenny is completely built on the transformer architecture. In the Gen A, guys, like, we're going to start with, like, what is a large language model. So what is prompt? Even, like, you give a lot of, like, it has a lot of prompting, right? So we open ChatGPT, like, we keep on questioning, like, I want to get this, I want to get this code, that code, and all, right? So, but it has some systematic process. A zero short learning, one short learning, like, in a few short learning, like, right? So anyhow, you can prompt the large language model. It's not a problem at all. So, but there's some systematic process, like, to get the best results. So, like, right, like, like it hardly takes hours on this, but, like, right, prompt engineering is one of them. But, like, so it is a myth that, like, people say if we just learn only prompt engineering, like, we are going to secure the job. It doesn't happen. So prompt engineering is a part of generative. Prompt engineering is a part of generative. So, right, and then comes large language models, like, right, like, we have to play with this seriously. So Agentic like is completely built on the top of, like, large language models only. It's not something different. Yes, Agentic doesn't have, like, its own drag or its own, like, models. So it is built on the top of large language models only. So, like, all the sentiment analysis, like the predictions or like the next for predictions, image processing, so everything is done. So, and again, large language models, like, we're two different. Like, one is open source models. So, which is, like, completely free of cost. So, right, like, ChatGPT is free of cost. So, right, like, up to some tokens, but beyond that, like, we have to purchase a license. So, for even like GPT, like, for like API backend APIs, if you want to interact with the program, like, ChatGPT is not free of cost, but it was initially. So for few months, like, even they kept it free of cost, but like as the users are increasing, so what they did is they made ChatGPT, like, as the open free, like, for all, and then, like, accessing by APIs, it's commercial. You might be aware of that. I'm not sure. So, right. And again, guys, like, we have two types of models. One is, like, I can go with open source models. So no need to pay not even single penny, like, for, like, connecting. And the other one is, like, commercial models, like, right, where I need to purchase, like, with some bucks. So, like, we'll talk about, like, both these guys. Like, I generally I use a lot, like, we do a lot of, like, backend programming GPTs. Like, I own, like, my commercial, like, my license, like, to make the backend APIs. So one in the same guys, like, Hugging Face models are also available. So what is Hugging Face, guys? So Hugging Face, like, basically, so we have all at one single place. So, like, that's how, like, basically we start our, the LLMs. It contains, like, all the large language models. Like, if you go to the modeling, so currently we have this many number of models, 18 lakhs 3,508 models. So even, like, we have, like, GBT related models too, but, like, right, not ChatGPT, like, 3 or 3.5. The older versions of GBT are kept here. So even there are number of, like, Microsoft models available. So if you are, like, meant for image processing, if you are meant for, like, if you are multimodal, like, which is for the text and, like, even for images. So, like, audio to video, then number of different use cases, guys. So got it right. And at in the left, like, you can see, like, the different use cases. So the tasks like that can be text, right? NLP related or image to text to images. So image to image models are available, text to video. Like this, the different tasks, like like these are different like so tasks, guys. Got it right. And if you differentiate these like computer vision models. So one way is to go for the Hugging Face models. I will talk about like everything in detail, guys. It's not like theoretically explained, but we'll practically see each and everything. So right in terms of like now it's my like call like so to decide the use case, like whether my use case is like right. So image to text to images, right? And then NLP related. So these are different use cases. Like select anything, like we'll find the models related to that one. So their unknown is perfect in this area. It's not indeed it's not required to. So we have to know like how to use these models like for my use case. So we are not building anything here. We're just trying to like do some application on the top of this. You can see the different use cases. We'll talk about everything in detail. Okay. So that is one, guys. Okay. So and then like RAG comes into picture, like fine tuning our like so fine tuning like the large language models is one topic, one more topic. So existing fine tuning existing large language models. So right, this is one, and the other one is like right, creating our large language models. So this is one is like right, like but this is for advanced. We'll talk about this later, but like fine tuning. So taking the existing large language models and adding your capabilities. So like you work for some firm, like some financial firm. Basically, if you take like the organizations like Wells Fargo, or like other companies like financial or so where the data has a lot of privacy banking sectors. So they don't go for the open source models, right? Why? Because everything is exposed to the outside large language models. So they download, they take the model, the binary format of this, and they will fine tune, like, right, with their existing documents, with their existing data. So, right, and what is RAG basically? So, RAG, guys, like here in this RAG, like, see, every large language model has some limitation. So I want to use my documents, like, all right, like I want to like give the priority to my documents. So my company, my project has some internal documents which I cannot expose to outside world. So got it right. So or like you want to give more importance to your documents, your PDFs, your like docs or your Excel files. So I'm going to like try my model like in such a way, like to give more preference to this like the PDFs or like the documents. So which is the part of RAG. So right, and then like the memory management, like how the memory management is handled in the large language models. So right, and then comes like agents. So nowadays, guys, like this is end. Like even before 2 years, we never talked about this too. So even like we used to give the training only on this till this is the end part, and then we used to work on some UIs. So the projects, right? And now is like agents. So let me talk about Agentic A first. Like what is Agentic A, guys? So it is end-to-end workflow, like it is like multi-processing kind of thing. So it does like multiple jobs at a time. So it does multiple jobs at a time. So what does it mean? So for example, I want to build a website, like that is my ultimate, my high-level use case. So in building the website, guys, there are multiple things comes into picture. So deployment comes into picture, right? Like designing the UA comes into picture. So right, like in the functionality of like the website comes, there are like multiple areas, right? Like which way to fulfill. So in the agentic A, like in every agent is taken care of like one particular task. So a simple example is like, I want to eat like say mangoes. Simple, like giving some lemon example is. So right, like, if you take this one, so like, if you take like, I want to eat like mango. So this is my, like, my task. So in this guys, like, there sub factors, right? Like say check mangoes at home. So mangoes are available like on the table or in home, right? Or is are available or not. So if not available, like, go to market. So, right, like, again, like, if you want to go to market, like, I have to use like car or like, bike, right? So that is again one more, like, task. Like, so go, like, so either use car or like, right, like, or bike, like, this is one type, one task. So, and then purchase manuals. So one agent is going to, like, take care of this. So, right, like, right, and then, like, coming back, like, come back to the home, like this guys, there are subtasks, like, right. So each subtask is maintained by one agent. So does it make sense what I'm saying? Like, I'm giving some simple layman example, but we can completely automate these guys. So got it right. Like, I want to build a website, like, so simply I want to build website. So in this case, that like subtasks, like, right, like, first of all, you want to capture the data, like, what exactly you need capture, like, data from. So, like, google.com or like maybe some other, like, or Bing or like, another, like, website. Okay. So processing is done by, like, processing the data is done by like one agent. So, right, like, choosing, like, the website is done by, like, choosing website is done by, like, one agent. So capturing the data. So capturing data is done by like a one agent. So deployment is done by one agent. So like these guys, like, agentic is nothing but all about designing the workflows. Now, in order to do this, there are two ways. So one is with coding and the other one is without coding. So in the with coding, like, we do it from the scratch, like using Python, like, using some large language models, and then we are going to build this. And without coding is like, that, like, so flow pair is one tool, the number of like tools available. So where, like, in the UI, like, we are going to drag and drop. So it is going to, like, we are going to give some of the conditions, the constraints, like, on how should it work. And basically, like, it does all the backend coding. And finally, it's going to, like, the number of tools available, guys, like, right, the number of tools available. So like it depends on my context, but if you're comfortable with this, like, all the tools does the same job. So without coding. So even the same thing for agents too. But knowing these things are mandatory, yes, knowing the terminology of, like, this is mandatory. Yes, so does it make sense what I'm saying? Like, this many different things are there, like, what to, like, skip and what are not required here. So like, obvious everything is built on the top of Python. We don't use go for Java or like, R at all, guys. So like partial programming is required here. So we need to know the minimal, like, concepts of the Python programming. So in data analytics, like, pandas is all about two things. One is series and data frame. So you have to know, like, how to read the data, like, from the files, like, what is series, what is data frame, the basic operations, if you're not aware of anything. So, right, and machine learning is like, again, like, this itself, it takes like, say, like almost like 3 to 4 weeks of time. If you get in detail, like talking about each algorithm. So the intuition of the linear regression, the intuition of random forestry, the intuition of decision tree. So, but like, since our ultimate goal is to, like, talk about these concepts, we have to know the flow. That's it. How, what are machine learning algorithms? What are models? So how do you, like, build a model from the algorithm? So, right, how do you train, test the model? So how do you check the accuracy? So that, like, people from like data science, like, you will be pretty aware of this, right? Like the different, like, accuracy metrics for like linear regression type, the different metrics for the classification type. Unsupervised, like, right, like, k-means clustering, the number of, like, use cases, case, right? You have to know at the high level. So how to make the prediction, like, how, like, get the numerical value, that's it, you have to know. So, and then deep learning again is like text processing, like, right, that basically we have only two different use cases: text processing and image processing. And before this, like, one thing that you have to know is like neural network. So neural network architecture, like, here, like, we talk about activation functions, right? Activation functions, like, loss functions is one. So like it is not required to know in detail, but you have to know the flow. So what is neural network? Like, how come it is different from the deep learning? like, right? And deep learning is like couple of use cases here. But if you want to, like, be Excel, it's not required. If your goal is to, like, main focus on the journey, but you have to know. So without knowing any of this, like, it is, we can cover this journey case, but like, it will not be invaluable for you. So, but in short term, like, you should know all these concepts in short. So, and then coming to journey case, like journey is all about these concepts, right? And in my organizations, we major, like, complete, we still, like, exploring, like doing POCs on agentic AI. So, right, but like, this large, these are, like, pretty much, like, matured nowadays. So, like, all the models are available, like, RAG is one concept, like, fine tuning your existing large language models is one topic. So, right, like next comes agents. If you want to, like, go for this, it is like, completely built on the top of this only. So you should be good at prompt engineering. You should be good at, like, what are large language models, what are open source models, like, how to fine tune your large language models, and RAG is one concept. Yes. And Hugging Face models are, like, free source, like, free models, like, anyone can download this. We can use this, right? So N comes, like, next comes, like, on the top of this agents, like, agentic AI. So, like, this is one example that I'm giving is, like, building the website. So this is taken care by, like, one agent. So parallelly is, like, it captures the data, like, how to, what to keep in the website. So, and then comes, like, processing the data is done by one agent. So choosing website name, like, it is done by one. If you, I need to give the context, like the prompt for this. So what kind of, like, it's a name that you're looking for. So capturing data is like one agent, like deployment is taken care of by one agent. So like these guys, like, different agents, like, in agentic AI, like, we are going to have the workflows. It makes sense, right, guys, what I'm saying? So this is the plan of action. So now, depending on the context, like, right, like we need to know all these things. So less focus will be on this. So more focus will be on this, and we need to know all these things. So in interviews, guys, like even I do conduct, like, in my company, now current company, previous company, like Oracle, like, I was the part of panel, like, we used so more questions on the transformer architecture, but in reality we don't use this. So that in reality, it is not required at all, but still, like, we should be, like, from the interview point of view, like, you have to know. So the interior first question would be, like, so, like, so what is the, like, can you explain about the transformer architecture? So you should be explain about, in order to explain this, obviously you need to have some basic understanding of this. Okay. So if you want to know that, like, explore this deep learning, you should have, like, an understanding of, like, machine learning. So the flow is, I'm not talking about in-depth concepts, but you should be aware of this. So, right, if you want to explore, like, an agentic is nothing but, like, right, like multitasking, like, I can say, like, the combination of all the agents. A agent does only one task. Agentic AI, like, does, like, multitasking, like, it is a combination of multiple agents. So, right, like, this is the flow. So, and, like, if you look at the course outline, guys, like, right, like, first initial topics are with respect to the Python. So we can have it or we can ignore that. So, and gradually, like, talking about, I've even added more concepts to guys. So talking about, like, gradually data analytics, like, here comes pandas and numpy. SciPy is one, data visualizations, like a matplot, libcburn is one library. Okay. And gradually talking about, like, stats, like, which is not required at or not required, but 5 years back, guys, we used to focus more on the statistics. So even, like, gradually talking about the pandas, like the different types of operations. Again, yes, I'm not going to explain anything theoretically. So, like, even I'm not going to use any PPTs in the training session. So it will be completely, so, like, coding style only. We are going to start with the coding, like, we are going to play with the code. We are going to see, like, how to design the workflows, like, completely. So I'll not going to use any PPTs, or I'm not going to use any like, the PDFs to explain you the concepts. Maybe, like, to explain the concepts I do, but, like, not, like, while explain coming to the coding. So it is completely workshop kind of thing. So, and then, guys, gradually, like, knowing few stats are required but not mandatory. So, and then comes machine learning. So machine learning is, like, it looks like having more number of topics, but, like, it's all about different types of algorithms, supervised versus unsupervised. SKLN is a library, like, like this way stats models is one library. So, right, and then like, coming to the supervised case, like, the number of algorithms available, all these are different algorithms. So logistic is one algorithm, decision tree is one algorithm, random forest is one algorithm, so support vector machine is one. You have to know the difference, guys, first of all. So what I mean to say is like, what are the like use cases of the classification? So what are the use case of regression? So you have to know the flow. So ensemble learning, like, right, like, ensemble learning is nothing but the combination of like, one or more multiple algorithms, bagging technique and boosting technique. So, right, like, it stands like, bootstrapping plus aggregation, bootstrapping plus aggregation. So, I'll talk about these guys. And then coming to unsupervised algorithms. So, right, like, gradually then stepping into deep learning. So, deep learning is like, right, to explain this, like, practically, again, this itself is a version, like, talking about like CNN architecture, like, right, RNNs, image processing. Like, deep learning is about only two things. So, you have to know three things. One is like the neural network architecture. In the neural network, like, we talk about activation functions, like, loss functions is one to explain about the flow. So how come it is different from the machine learning? So, right, and gradually, like, so you may be like data scientist, like, creating, like, the model which gives 19% accuracy. So, but guess if that is not deployed to the production, it doesn't make any sense. So make sense what I'm saying? If that's not deployed to the, maybe the data scientist having like 10 years or 5 years, 15 years, but and you created the algorithm, you created the model, so which gives 98% accuracy. But if the model is not deployed to the production, it doesn't make any sense. So deployment is again deployment, it's of two types. So one is cloud deployment, the other one is non-cloud deployment. Like, non-cloud is nothing but like, it's nothing but having the local system, your local server. So, right, like, and the other one is like, non-cloud, like, cloud and non-cloud. Like, you should be good with all these things, guys. Either AWS or Azure. Deployment purpose. So, right, like, advanced ML concepts, like, this is not required, guys, but introduction of this. So, and then gradually talking about GenAI, like, now we are going to enter into the step into GenAI. So, architecture of transformer, right? Even that's what like I mentioned here, architecture of transformer architecture. So, which is required to know. So, like, once like some use case is given, like, how, like, how it works at the back end. And then gradually, like, in talking about tokenization, like, embeddings is one topic, like, basically talking about large language models, prompt engineering. So, and then, like, that like two ways of like, creating like the large language models. Like, one is using the existing models, and the other one is like, creating your own models. In the third way is like, fine tuning some existing models. So, right, like, understand the terminology is like, even practically is like, remember one thing, if some candidate comes and says that like, his 10 years experience in Gen A, it is bullshit. So no one has experience than more than 3 years in the space of data, in the space of like Gen A. Remember that. So it is in existence. Even the first paper, like, on large language models is released on like 2020, guys. So that time no one is aware of this. So it came into limelight, like, because of the existence of ChatGPT or like, Gemini or like Bard kind of things. The number of Falcon is one, Mistral is one. So the number of tools available. Okay, Gen tools. So from 2000 like to 22, 23, people started talking about this, but people from started using this from 2023 practically. If in the requirements also, like, they mentioned that like, the candidate should have 10 years experience in data science, that is acceptable. So machine learning and deep learning, but no one is like, more than 3 years experience in Gen A. This is the reality. So even that is how I came into picture. Like, earlier our use cases are like, purely based on some machine learning and deep learning. So now it's like in stuff like so what is the disadvantage of machine? We have to train the model. So it needs a lot of computational like power, computational memory, right? I have to train my model. Instead of that, a Gen A comes into play. Like, why should I train with my data? So why should I spend a lot of time? So the large languages are already built on huge volume of data. So whatever data available in the internet, like, it is being trained, like, the models are created on huge volume of data. So right, like I started like we start exploring that. On the top of this, like we used to do a lot of sentiment analysis, predictions and all. So, but that is not sufficient. Like everything has to be automated. Then AI agents comes into picture. Now, like one agent is not sufficient. Like I want to do the multitasking. If you give the high level task, like it has to break that into multiple like subtasks, and it finally to get the output. So that's where agentic AI came into picture. Okay. So, and then is like the number of applications available, like multimodal applications, like these are more about like the large language models. So here guys, like we basically like in terms of infrastructure, like the deployment strategies are different. So right, like we are going to talk about this, like right, and how to create the CI/CD pipelines for this. So, and how to monitor model. So that is one. So, and coming to the use cases, guys, like the projects you can think, or the use cases, like document processing system. Like if some PDF is given, like I want to like I can question that PDF. So like I can pass it to the like chatbot. Like I want to design the chatbot. So this is a trend nowadays. So content generation, I want to generate the new content. Like if you give some Excel file, I want to like read each record. I want to like make the yes or no. So like this guys, the number of use case available. So generating our code, there are different applications. So in next, after once we're done with this, and next comes AI agents and agentic AI. So creating the workflows of agentic AI, and then like right, and it is nothing but the combination of multiple agents. We'll talk about that guys. So and this is the plan, like the complete. This is the high level, like right, like the in-depth concepts guys. But like this is what we are going to cover. So I don't have agentic AI like here, but like I have added it here. So we have to know this many different concepts here. And if our main goal is like to get to GenAI, even these things are not required. So while talking about GenAI, like I can cover these concepts also. But if you want to have the solid understanding, like these things at the high level are required. So we are not going to spend like too much of time on this, but like our focus will be right from GenAI till agentic AI. Like again, like I'm telling everything is like agents with coding, without coding. So without coding is nothing but like with the help of the tools like drag and drop. So even the same thing, like the number of tools available, guys. So and right, like you should be comfortable with everything. If you listen some, if you look at like some demos, they'll talk about like right, just to make it simple. So they go for some tools, agentic AI. But like even guys, you being the developer, like we have to like first of all create the agentic AI with the help of the coding only. So got it right. So AI agents are and agentic AI both are not same. So both are different guys. I'll talk about the difference tomorrow. So but this is the flow. So any questions for me? Any questions for me, guys? So any questions for me?
Oh, everything looks good. Oh, Girish. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, things seem looks like a good course that we can follow.
So this is the reality, guys. Like I'm not creating any hype. Like like what is not there. So to make it simple, like we can like go for this, like just to have like without coding also. But you have to know everything is. So if you want to be the full-fledged data scientist, like even from the career point of view, like right, like you have to know all these things. So right, like and less focus will be on this. I'm not going to focus. Why? Because so this, if you have to focus on this, this itself it takes like 2 to 3 months of time. Like complete talking about the Python, like analytics, but too much of so ML is not needed. Too much of neural network is not needed. So too much of deep learning is not. But you have to know that understand the language, guys. So that is how the market is. So right, no one knows like I'm. This is the reality. I mean, I'm not exception, guys, but I'm like the hardcore data scientist, like I'm the working professional. So right, so beyond that guys, so nowadays the market is all about the technology. So you should be able to talk about agentic AI. You should be able to talk about generative AI. If someone asks you like can you speak something about like right gen AI, like what kind of projects that you do, you have to use the slang of this. So right, like you have to use this as a jargon, is technical jargon, like you should be comfortable with this. Got it right? So that is how it is designed, guys. But like so I'm not the friend from the day one of my career. So I started like, came to this teaching, we completed the passion only, but like, right. So, and I started my career in Python developer. I don't know any other languages. Of course, I know Java, but I'm telling in general. So like I started from the day one, I started my career as a Python developer. Gradually, like, started exploring all the areas, so including web development too. And apart from this, guys, like, what is expected, So like, you are expected like to create UI screens, UI development also. So like even if you take my projects, guys, like, right, like, so we have to create our own UI screens. So data scientist is data science, or like the projects is not the teamwork, remember. So in the real time, like, you are given with a dedicated projects, like you are the boss of your project. That's what even we handle our projects. So like we work on a lot of POCs, like, right. Once the POC is approved, like, finalized, then like, we'll go for the actual development. In the POCs, like we basically create our, like, for example, I have to create the chatbot, right? So we create our my screen, my UI screen. So right, like, and like we'll try to like talk from the UI to the backend. So we don't change anything in the black screen. We don't change anything in the Linux screen. So everything will be UI based. So right, UI development. In the UI development case, we don't spend much of the time, but like, you should be good at like, Python, Flask, or like, React JS. So nowadays, all the screens, UI screens are based on the React only. So even I'm not perfect in these areas, like for the POCs, for the demos. So like, we create this. So this is the plan. It's like ask any typical data scientist, like, right, these are the concepts that we have. So right, like, as I was still like less focus will be on this, but you have to know the technical jargon. Like, without knowing what is activation function, or like what is transformer rotation, like, it is difficult to get. We can learn this still, even though. So, but interesting is like, right, less coding. So here, like, in this, we don't code much. So in this, we require like more coding, but it is not required to like focus more on the coding, but you have to know the concepts. So without knowing what is a list or what is dictionary, right? Like, or like, so what is activation functions, or what are the predictions? Like how to check the accuracy, like, it's meaningless. You have to know this at the high level, even the transformer architecture also. So we don't choose this in the real time. So, but from the interview point of view, like, this is expected. So, the first question would be like, explain about the transformer architecture. So, right, like you should be able to like explain this. So, at least for 10 to 15 minutes, like, at least for 10 minutes, the flow. So, what is min-max function? Like, right, like what is encoder? What is decoder? You should be able to explain this. But really, we don't use this. Okay. Engineering, like prompt engineering, like, we'll talk about this, all these things, guys, but this is the flow. So, any questions for me, guys? Any other questions for me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Giridhar, I have one question.
right.
So by the end of this course, like, can we able to do any certification kind of thing? Like, is there any certification we can do?
So the number of certifications, like, we don't have the certification like Java. So Java is
Okay.
owned by like, Oracle, and like, they provide their own certifications. But say this are most of them are open sources, right or wrong, Sunil?
Okay.
Right, like, this open source, like, that is the reason, like, we don't have any standard authority or the standard body which gives the certification on this. So, but the number of like another third party sites, like, which give certification. So, but they're not valid properly, but we have certifications too.
Okay.
For
This.
simple example, like, right, like, Udemy has its own certification, like, if you go for even the number of like, other institutes which give certification. So, but it's not about the certification, like, these are open source tools, right? So even the like, with the certification, it is not valid for longer term. So I don't believe in that, like, in this area. So, but if you go for Java, like I say, like SAP, so we have certifications which are valid. So why? Because that are being authorized by like one institute, one like, SAP institute, or like SAP company, right or wrong, SAP organization, but it's not like this. So most of them are open, and every day, like, it is getting changed. So
So
1 year
yeah, I
back,
want.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
So by the suppose like we have successfully completed this course, and suppose how we can make others believe that I have learned this Gen AI. So that's what my question.
Like, from a point of view, like, that's what I'm saying. There are two ways of getting certified. Like, one is like the Coursera certifications are there. So those certifications you can go with. That is one way. So got it right. So the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
way, like, if you're able to speak confidently about RAG. So if you can speak confidently like about Agentic AI,
Okay.
so that is good enough, right? Like even people are less in the market, like even there hardly like not even 1% of like the developers can speak about Agentic AI.
Yeah, exactly.
So right, like
Yeah,
one thing is confidence matters, and you should be like pretty strong in talking about it, like in talking about like what is Agentic AI or like or what is large language model. So even people doesn't know like what is Hugging Face.
yeah, exactly.
So they're data scientists. Even like I've seen number of people in my like career like that they're designed as data scientist, but they don't know what is Hugging Face. So they don't know how to fine tune the model. So if you ask like out of 100 data scientists, like not even one data scientist can explain about the transformer architecture. Speak about that for like for 5 minutes without any disturbance, without like with the flow, we are good enough. That's it.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
So this is the one like the other option we already have, that is Coursera certifications, like no, right? The number of other certifications available.
Oh, hi Giridhar. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one more. Let's say, like, whatever we talked about up to now about Chennai. So for the basic, we need almost about the data science.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying this is an extension, like the for the data science, the extension is like Gen AI, or you're like we can able to start like as a newcomer for the Gen AI?
We can start like but very few concepts are required. Even though we start with the Gen AI, let me share my.
Mhm.
So we can start with the Gen AI. That's what even I do. But at least initial like weekdays. So we need to like brush up our concepts like on this. So in the Gen AI space, like less coding is required. Why? Because I don't need to be the hardcore Python developer, or I don't need to know like what are end-to-end concepts of this. So, but still, so we have to know like basic concepts of Python, which I expect like most of us has the same. And still like you have to know like what are machine learning algorithms, how what do you mean by model? So what is algorithm? So what is supervised? You have to know at the high level. And like what is like a neural network, right? What is machine learning? So right, like how to get the predictions out of that. You have to know the flow. How did train my model? If you know this, like then like we can think about this. We'll talk about this. Understood, right? I'm not going to spend too much of time on this. It's a very lesser time. Why? Because if you talk about every topic, every algorithm is like this becomes 2 to 3 months, of course. So intuition of each algorithm, linear regression is there. Like I have to talk about that. So, but it's not required. That is like how like we start the journey. Got it right? But I can skip this completely. So, right, like I being like just to attract the people, or like I can say that. So these are not at all required. I can say that. So, but in the longer duration, like still you have to know like what all these things does. Make sense what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
like
Giridhar,
that is
got
a
it.
reality. That is a reality, right? Like I can simply say that like things are not required at all. So we can start with
Yeah,
the. So, but like this is like that is like doing a false commitment. So these
yeah.
things are
I
required,
mean,
but to know the term, you have to know the slang of this. I mean to say. So what is machine learning? So
okay.
unsupervised algorithm. Even I didn't add few reinforcement learning is one. Even I added like I didn't add few couple of the things. So but you have to know these things like at the high level, right? And then like you have to feel comfortable. So like right, like that like 10 or 20% of data science, like what are machine learning algorithms. So right, like I'm not going to spend much time on this. Just like I'm going to like simply wind up this, like I say, like weekdays to 10 days, 7 to 10 days. But you have to know this. So and then like it come to Gen, like then you'll feel comfortable. That technology, like you have to know this. I'm telling right, like no need of having any certifications. So if you're able to talk say without a gap, like for 15 to 20 minutes on any topic of this, like you're good at Gen. Got it right? So
Yeah,
even
Giridhar.
reality is this,
Yeah,
even
got it.
interviewers doesn't have the complete working experience on complete stack. So the 80 to 90% data scientists like that we have like currently who are like called with that called as data scientists. So their managers like moved from one profile to other profile, or the people like who work in Java or .NET or some other language, they migrated to the data science. And none of the even the one who is called as Gen developer, Gen engineer. So even like hard like even not even like 80% is like worked on this. I interviewed many people in my career, like, they don't know, like, what is pandas, like, they will, if I give some use case, they're unable to write also. But they're called as like data scientist, senior data scientist, or principal data scientist without knowing all these things. So this is good, like, but high level, like, we're going to cover this. And then, like, within like 7 to 10 days, like, we're going to talk about this. So till like agentic AI. Okay. It's clear, right? All right. Any questions, guys? Any questions? Are we good?
Yeah, nothing, Giridhar. Got it.
Is like even I'm not I even I have the PPT guys, but I'm not using I haven't used any such PPT like to give like the intro to this, but it's we'll talk about this. So, but I'm explain the topics that we have. Like I can simply go ahead with this, but it will not be useful for you at all. So we can get into this once we're comfortable with the topics that like that are expected that we have to like. Okay. So all right, guys. So that's all for the day. So any questions, do let me know, or else we can wind up for the day.
Yeah, we are good, Giridhar.
Okay. So all right, guys. Like have a nice day. Take care, guys.
Thank you, Giridhar.
Thank you.